Okay, folks. I have a limited time to work with, so I have a lot to do, and I want to make sure that I leave enough time to answer questions throughout this. So I'm going to get started, and if people aren't at their computers right now, it is not a big deal. I repeat things throughout, and I'm sure there'll be questions that come up that I'll come back to. Good morning. My name is Mark Siegel. All of my contact information is right here on the screen. You can find me on the socials at Dare to Awesome. You can email me at any point at marksiegel@gmail.com. And this entire presentation is accessible at the bit.ly link that is right there. You will also notice that not only do I have it here on the first screen, but if you do miss it, I always put it on the corner of all of my other screens. So if for some reason you are not paying attention right now, it's totally fine. Like I said, the link for the presentation is going to be right here in the corner of every screen. It was a pet peeve of mine when I attend sessions when the presenter only puts the link on the very first slide, and then we're like 2 minutes in, we're 2 slides in, and someone's like, I didn't get the link. Can you go back? And that absolutely drives me nuts as a teacher and as a student, like a person sitting in a presentation, because I can't stand it. Like when you're in a classroom and you're presenting something and the student's like, and you have to move on, and the kid's like, can you just go back for a minute? That kills me, absolutely kills me. Um, so you are in the session for flipped classroom, flipped learning. Like I said, my name is Mark Siegel. I'm going to give you a lot about me. I'm going to talk a lot about my students and the process that we go through in this class. I am in my 23rd year as an educator. I have taught in 4 different districts. I started my career at the Union County Magnet High School in Scotch Plains. So shout out to those Union people out there. Unfortunately, I'm so sad that there's no Monmouth County people right now. But I started out there. I spent a couple years in Northern Burlington County Regional Schools as the director of math, science, and agriculture. Then I went up to Ridge High School, where I was a chemistry teacher, and then now I've been at Middletown High School South for 12 years. In those 12 years, I have been a chemistry teacher. I have been the educational technology specialist for the building. I was the director of science and health and PE for a year. I went back to being the ed tech specialist for the building, and now I'm back to teaching chemistry. I've also taught in those class time honors, CP, AP chemistry. I taught AP physics for about 6 months last year. I teach a class called Innovation and Design, and last year I taught a class called ninth grade seminar, which was an entire semester based on SEL and getting to know the kids and building relationships and a whole bunch of other stuff like that. Outside of education, so that's why I call myself a STEM educator as opposed to like a science teacher, because one of my classes sits in the technology department and most of my classes sit in the science department. So I go on both. I wear a lot of hats in the school. So I have 2 kids, 2 dogs, a wife. I run. I'm a maker. I have a laser. I use the school's laser cutter and 3D printer, so I'm proficient in those kinds of things. I design signs. I have some of them behind me. You can see some things. I'm currently in my basement. It is in the process of being redone. So I've got toys and all sorts of things anywhere, all over the place. I have a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old. They're transitioning out of being little children to being little adults. And so we're in the process of redesigning the basement to be a teenage kids hangout as opposed to a little kids playroom kind of thing. So I have my work table here. I have all sorts of things. But one of the things that the was key to me in the keynote was the relationship building. I'm going to talk about relationships a lot during this whole process. So the big key to me is I want you to know that I'm authentic. It's important to me that I show my students that I'm authentic so they see the real me at all times. One of the things I post about on my Instagram all the time is the fact of like, you're not going to see perfection. You're going to see the real side of my classroom. Yeah, you see some cool things that are happening too, but you'll also see the disasters that happen along the way because mistakes are learning and learning is messy. And so I try to show all of that too. So you get every once in a while, I'll step to the side and you'll see like little glimpses of the random things that I've got behind me. Okay. Um, I'm going to give you a basic agenda, but I'm going to kind of weave through all sorts of the place. The big thing about this is I can't. I really was hoping. I was keeping my fingers crossed that it was going to be in person this year. This is, I think, my 5th or 6th time presenting for the Rutgers Alternate Route Conference. I absolutely love it. it's much more fun when it's in person, but we'll make it work on Zoom too. But I'm standing here in my basement talking to a wall, essentially. I'm talking, I can see some of you, but most of you, otherwise I'm talking to myself for the next hour. So if you have questions at any point, please interrupt me. The big thing about flipped classroom is it's the exact opposite of what I'm going to do for the next 50 minutes. So the whole point of flipped classroom is you're answering questions, you're interacting with your students, you're building relationships and all that stuff. And I'm not doing any of that right now. So please, you can throw things into the chat, or if you want to just unmute your microphone and interrupt me at any point, please, I will be happy to stop what I'm doing and answer your questions. So I'm going to talk about my journey a little bit, some pedagogical ideas. I know you're all brand new to teaching for the most part. This is your real experience. You run the gamut. I was looking at your video. I'm watching your videos, and you run basically from some of you have just gotten out of college to some of you are at the end, or you have retired, or you finished your first career in teaching is now your second or third career. So we run the gamut of life experience here. So I'm going to try and talk about all of that. I'm going to talk about technology, collaboration, and mastery learning. Again, like I'm not going to go in a linear fashion. I'm going to kind of weave through as I go. I want to make sure that you know that I know what I'm talking about. I've actually been doing the flipped classroom for 13 years now. I'm going to talk about that more in my journey. But my classrooms have been featured in various magazines. I've done interviews on podcasts, and I helped co-write a book, which is available on Amazon. It's a little on the older side now because it was probably 7 years ago now, but it is available on Amazon. But I always want to make sure that that I'm not just some random guy who's dabbled with this in my classroom. I have been to conferences of presentations on the flipped classroom, and that's exactly what the presenter is. He's like, I tried this last year and I'm going to present this. No, I've been doing this for 13 years on and off throughout different courses, whether it be my technology class or my chemistry classes or physics classes or whatever. So this is what we're going to be doing. I'm going to talk about all of that experience. So here's what you're going to do. Because I like interaction. So you are going to, if you're on a computer, I know some of you are on your phones and you may not be able to do this, but if you're on a computer, you're going to go to this link right here, polev.com/marksiegel007. If this question does not appear on your screen when you pop that website up, then you spelled my name wrong or you put the number in wrong. So let's see. The title of the book, thank you, Amira, didn't give me the preview. The title of the book is literally exactly what I had on the screen. It's called Flipping 2.0, Practical Strategies for Flipping Your Classroom. By the way, all of these things are links. If you have the presentation, again, the link is down the left-hand side. These are all linked. All my pictures and everything are linked to other things. So this book will bring you directly to Amazon. It's not just a science book. It is a little bit of everyone's book. Like there's a couple of chapters on science, a couple of chapters on math, a couple of chapters on English. It's written by educators who are in the practice of doing this job. So again, why does it do that? There we go. polev.com/marksiegel007. When you go there, I'll see if I can throw that in the chat so it's easier for people to link. I hate it when it does that. Let's see. It is. Oh, sorry. I activated, but I forgot to hit the present button. Sorry. It should be available now. Let's see. I'll throw it here in case anyone can't find it.
Good morning. I'm sorry because I know okay. So I see you just put it up. The bit.ly link. Will you be able to drop that in the chat too? Because when you
100%.
it was connected to what you were writing and I couldn't click on it.
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
So take a second, put in your response. You're going to respond to this question that's here. What is the most effective use of your face-to-face time with your students? So I'll give everyone like 2 minutes to respond to that question, and then I'll jump back in. You can do that. You can also dunk it in hot water. And then? No, if you put it in hot water, like if you pour hot water into this and let it get like boiling water into this, the glue should get hot and it should peel off. But you can do it that way too. The only thing you have to watch out for is sometimes it burns the paper before it melts the glue. But supposedly, if you fill that with hot water and just let it sit for a minute, so the hot water, it'll basically steam the glue.
Which takes less energy.
The boiling water one.
Will take less energy.
Yeah. Or sometimes they peel off. Sometimes that works too. I am like 10 minutes in, but they're responding to this poll, so I am going to go back to that poll if that's okay. Okay. Okay, so sorry about that. I had to answer some questions from my wife. So let's talk about this. Now, polleverywhere.com is a great tool to use in your classroom. I actually use it on a regular basis as part of my do nows. One of the things that I was I shouldn't say trained with. That's not the best way to say that. My training and education, even though I have a chemistry degree, but I also graduated with my education certificates because the school I went to was supposed to allow me to do that as a dual major. Whole backstory on that one, that didn't happen. So I do have a bachelor's degree in chemistry, but I always knew I wanted to be an educator. So it was going to be this way. When I was trained in do nows, the do now was supposed to be get students activated into what you're learning for that day. I find that with Poll Everywhere, especially if you're in a school that has devices, which most people do, most schools are one-to-one now. This is a great way to do that. But you can also ask questions for building relationships. So one thing that I do is I ask the quick kids on Mondays, what was their favorite thing that they did over the weekend? And on Fridays, I ask them, what's the thing you're looking forward to most? Now, I teach teenagers, and the most common response is sleeping, but that's the way it is. But I'll also ask questions like, what was the best thing you ate this weekend? Or what happened this weekend that you didn't expect to have happen? So I ask little things to get to know them a little bit more. And then sometimes in the middle of the week, I will ask them a question that is a do now. And with Poll Everywhere, if you've never used it before, it's a free service. It only allows for 40 responses, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this back-to-back sessions. I have no idea if I'll hit 40, but all I'll do is in between them, and this is what I do with my classes, I just clear all my responses out. You can do like a situation like this where everyone's response appears on the screen. You can do multiple choice questions or polling questions to get a feel for where they're at with something. The only thing you have to watch out for is if you don't pay for it, all the responses are anonymous. So yes, I do get the stupid responses because I teach teenagers. And so they will say something inappropriate. One of the questions I did right before Thanksgiving was, if you had unlimited resources, what is one problem you would solve in the world? And I got some very politically charged responses with them. And I had to shut it down immediately because I wasn't going to get into a political debate on one side or the other. So this is what happened. So let's see what your responses are. What is the most effective use of your face-to-face time with your students? My students have more access to tools in the classroom, and they have the ability to be hands-on in class and work with other students when necessary. Absolutely. Building rapport through listening to understand, asking them questions about them and their interests. Beautiful. Relationship building, answering questions to build relationships, to strengthen the curriculum, well-being, etc. Interactive activity. The best use of conversation about something that they are interested in. Sometimes giving help with the current assignment. Good. Instruction, practice problems, relationship building. High school math teachers totally get it. I like for my classroom to be very interactive. So whenever my students are up and moving around in groups, coming to the board, I found them to get the most out of that. 100%. We're going to talk about that one a lot. Making the whole class solve questions in groups on the board and rotating between groups to check their work. Good. One-on-one coaching after they have tried to learn. Yeah, I use small group teacher table time to reteach prerequisite skills. Beautiful. There's a lot of great things that are happening right now. Let's see if I can get out of that one and get back to my presentation. There we go. Okay, so those are all fantastic responses, but the bigger problem is how much of your time in your classroom do you actually do that? So that's the biggest thing. So let me go back to you let me talk about my journey on this. So about 13 years ago, I was teaching high school chemistry, and when I was doing my student teaching, there was a day I was in the middle of a lesson, and my cooperating teacher, who was absolutely horrific, she was a good teacher, but she was a terrible mentor. When I would teach, when I started taking over the classrooms for my student teaching, she left, like straight up left the building. She went and ran errands. She would get her oil changed. She'd go have lunch with her husband. She never observed me teaching. So one day I'm in the middle of a lesson and she bursts into the classroom, totally shocking me and the class, grabs this binder off the wall, turns to me and goes, "What lesson are you teaching right now?" And I was in the middle of teaching gas laws. And she goes, "Okay." She opens a binder. She goes, flip, 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 finds it, says, "What's today's date?" She erases the lesson plan, the date that's on the top of her lesson plan, writes in the current date and puts it back onto the shelf. And she says, "The principal is coming around to check lesson plans. If he stops in here, there are my lesson plans to show him." She didn't bother to look. She didn't bother to change. She didn't update herself. She didn't care what was happening. She knew that here's my lesson plans and this is what it was. And I said to myself, if I ever get to that point where I am just regurgitating what I'm doing from the previous year and I'm not even thinking about my lessons, that's when I either have to retire or I have to change. Fast forward to 10 years into my career, and I walk in on a Monday morning. I sit down on my computer. I open up my slideshow from the previous week. I'm like, where was I? I go tab, 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 tab. And all of a sudden I flashed back to my student teaching, went, oh my gosh, I have to change. So it just so happened that right around that same time, I saw an article in the National Science Teachers Association newspaper about these two guys, these two chemistry teachers in Colorado who are using video instruction in their classroom. And I said, I've already done this. I used to record individual example problems for my students. I literally took a video camera on a tripod and recorded myself writing out the solutions to problems and would post them to my website. So I'm like, I can do this. I just have to flip everything around. So here's the thing that I have found later with this for brand new teachers as you are. This looks very similar to the little pyramid that you should have discussed at some point in your classes. Here's what the retention rate is of students by learning based on their activity. So if you are spending your time in class doing a lecture, your students are only going to remember 5% of the total lecture time that you're spending. Okay, so if you lecture them for 1 hour, let's do a 1 hour lesson, they're going to only remember 5% of that lesson. So that's 5% of 60 minutes, which is only 3 minutes of your entire 60-minute lesson. And the problem with it is no two kids are going to remember the same 3 minutes. And how many times have you done a lesson and you've walked out of that lesson and you were like, damn, I was awesome. They were taking notes. They were doing the problems. I was asking them questions. They were answering the questions. I'm a rock star. I can write a book about this. And the next day you walk in and you're like, okay, folks, let's pick it up. And they're like, yeah, you never taught us that, because they don't remember. They remembered 3 minutes. And that 3 minutes may have been the 3 minutes that they got you off track and you decided to tell a story about something you did or about a thing that happened to you later, previous in life. So you need to use your time that's most dedicated to getting to the higher parts of this pyramid. Now, when I first started flipping, what I did was I took a stopwatch and I put it in my pocket. And I decided to see how long of a lesson I actually was giving a lecture for. Like, how long was I talking? How much was actual instruction versus what everything else that was going on? And what I found was, in a typical 40-minute lesson, I only talked for between 5 to 10 minutes. So every time I asked a question, I paused the timer. Every time they responded to a question, I didn't run the timer. Every time I said, okay, yeah, let's do this, and a kid raised their hand, I'm like, yes, Johnny. And he's like, can I go to the bathroom? That's all time taken out of a lesson. All of those are interruptions. And I only was teaching about 10 minutes out of 40 minutes of my actual lessons, which means that I was wasting 30 minutes of time in every single lesson that I was doing. So I started making videos, and my videos were all between 5 and about 10 minutes long. Some run a little bit longer, and I'll get into that in a minute. When I did that, all of a sudden, I had all this free time in my classroom because my kids only had to watch a 10-minute video. And if they wanted to, they could pause, they could rewind, they could watch it multiple times, they can watch it with friends, they can ask questions in the middle of the video. They can do all of these other things. So all of a sudden I had all that time to walk around to individual groups, ask questions of them, give them support, and do the things I needed to do. As a science teacher, I also had more time to now do more labs. Now, I always wanted my students to watch the instructional videos at home. It never really happened. Most of my kids watch the videos in class, and I'm going to talk about the in class flip in a few minutes. So, videos. You are all fortunate to walk into a world that's post pandemic in the fact that um, a lot of teachers already have a ton of content out there on the web for you to just Google and grab and borrow. Big one is Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle, if you're not using, these are all active links. The YouTube videos the YouTube link goes to my channel so you can see the type of videos that I post. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. Edpuzzle is a great place to hold kids accountable. If you're not using Edpuzzle, try it. It's a place where you can upload a video or you can use other people's videos, and if you can put questions in the middle of the video. It monitors how long the students have watched the video, how many questions they've gotten correct, how many times they've gone back going over things. So it gives you accountability statistics to use with your students. If you want to make your own videos, and I'll get into that too, is Screencastify is a nice free service that allows you to record your screen and your microphone and your camera if you really want to, and post all of that stuff. I highly recommend you making your own videos. Here's why. Number one, and I apologize, I'm going to use math as examples throughout this because it tends to be math teachers who struggle, who have come to me and said, I'm struggling. So I had a math teacher in my building. I gave her PD on Flipped Classroom, and she came up to me a couple months later and said, I tried that whole Flipped Classroom thing, and that was awful, and I am never doing that again. And I'm like, whoa, I'm sorry. Why did it go so poorly for you? So she says, well, I didn't have time to make my own videos, but there's this really great college professor who teaches the same content. And so what I did was I posted his video to my classroom and I had my students watch it. And I'm like, okay, well, college is all about lecture and they tend to be very long. Did you show the whole video? And they said, no, the whole video didn't apply. So what I did was I told my students to only watch specific minutes. So like from minute 105 to 245 and then this and this. And I just listed it all for them on my website, on Google Classroom. And I'm like, that was probably the reason why it went poorly, because the kids don't want to jump through hoops to watch your videos. They want to click a link and watch the video, and that's it. They don't want to have to fast forward and then find another thing. And the other thing about it is that my students talk about all the time, and it goes both directions on this. My students like the fact that it's my voice coming out of their computer. They like the fact that it's me, because when I talk to them about other teachers who are doing the flipped classroom, they tell me all the time how they like my videos, but they hate this other teacher's videos because it's not the other teacher who's delivering the video. It's some other random teacher. And one student said to me, it's like I'm not even learning from my teacher. Why are they even here? If they're going to use someone else's material, why don't I just learn from that other person in the first place? So they like the connection to you. In my videos, I have videos where my cat jumps. I don't show my face in my videos because I tried it one time and my students were like, never do that again. And I said, cool. But one time my cat jumps on the couch behind me and meows into my microphone, like right behind my ear. So my microphone picks it up and my students hear that. Or another one where I have a clock and it chimes, but my clock, one of the songs that it plays is Killing Me Softly. And it plays in the background and you can hear it. And every time I get to that unit, because I never want to re-record this video because it's so cute, but every time you hear it, you see the students start to recognize that there's music suddenly playing in the background, and they all lean in to their computers. Even if they have headphones on, they still lean in to try and hear better. And they're like, what song was that playing in the background? And I have to go through the whole thing. There's another video where I sneeze in the middle of the video. I just never changed it because, again, it's like, there's so much time required to record and edit a video that you don't have that. Like, I don't have time to make new videos all the time. So you'll see on my YouTube channel, a lot of my videos are 11 years old because guess what? Finding the molarity of a solution doesn't change. It doesn't matter if I accidentally sneeze somewhere to take that out. Now, I've gotten really good at editing, but you don't have to be a video editor to do this stuff. You can literally just record on the fly. You will see that in some cases, it is literally me with my cell phone at a lab bench and I record something and I throw it to YouTube because that's what's fast. And that's what's easy. Now, one of my friends, Ramsey, and I had to take his link out because he took down a lot of his websites and stuff. But one thing that my friend Ramsey in San Francisco does is he uses videos that he records using students. And so what he does is he finds a student at the end during the class who seems to be struggling. And he calls that student over to the side at the end of class and says, "Hey, look, I saw you were struggling a little bit today. I was wondering if you could help me with something. I need to record a quick overview of a problem. Can you take my phone? I'm going to write something up on the board and you're going to record it for me so I can post it to YouTube." And so the kid sits there and holds his phone up to record, and Ramsey goes through and solves the whole problem. And at the end, the kid pauses and Ramsey basically says, "Okay, did that make sense to you? Because if it makes sense to you, then it should make sense to everyone else." And the kid's like, "Yeah." So inadvertently, I mean, like the kid is now getting a second lesson on this particular material, and Ramsey gets his video made that he needs to for YouTube. Great question, Stacy. So I saw this pop up. Stacy asked, "How do you protect your content or you don't care?" Honestly, I don't care. So a few years ago, I use a program called Camtasia Studio and Snagit. It's both by the company made the TechSmith company. I absolutely love TechSmith. They are very huge supporters of education, except that they are business focused first. So they make video content for businesses to do instruction and things like that. A few years ago, they created a learning program very similar to Google Classroom, where teachers can make videos and dump it to a secured site. The site has to have a login to get into it. Teachers can share it between different departments. There's all sorts of things, but everything is self-contained. And they wanted me to be like a spokesperson for this. And I said to them, "That's great, but no, because the whole reason I'm on YouTube is I want anyone in the world to be able to see my videos." So my website has over 4,000 subscribers to it. My kids all think I'm internet famous. I'm not. They want to know, do I know 4,000 people? No, I don't. Most of the people that are on there are probably trolls or people from wherever, but all of a sudden I'll get a random comment from some kid in Iran who's like, "Thank you very much. My teacher can't teach me anything. I've learned all chemistry from you." Or I'll get whatever. And I get those kinds of things. So I have 1.2 million views on my YouTube channel because anyone in the world can access my videos and watch what I'm doing. So that's important to me. Now, if you feel like you need to have it locked down, use Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle has a specific way that you have to do things. So it's a more secured session. So let's see. Okay, we have a question. Pamela.
Hi, how are you? So just quick question. When you're doing the videos, I know you said you're not showing yourself. Do you have like a slideshow up that you're talking in the background and then kind of doodling on the slides? Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I have. So it's essentially what you're seeing here, but what I do is because I teach science and it's a little bit easier this way, but you can do this in any subject matter. I have a Microsoft Surface, so it's a tablet PC, and I have a pen that goes along with it. And so what I do is just like it would look like in class, the slide pops up, it has the question up on the top, and then I fill it in as I go along. I also have, and I don't currently have it on my computer, in the videos, I have a calculator program that pops up as well. So the kids can see what the numbers are that I'm typing into the calculator, and they can copy it exactly in the same manner, because that's the biggest problem that I have with students is they don't they type things into the calculator wrong. So they can see the method I'm using when I say it in words, and then everything appears for them there. And then if it's a slideshow where there's just definitions, I annotate everything that comes in. So the word comes in, the definition pops up. The word comes in, the definition pops up. Pictures come up. As you can see, like I feel like presentations need to be very visually focused. So I try to bring in pictures. I'll draw diagrams as I do it. I'll put links, etc., from the video, but then the links are in the slideshow. And I always post all my slideshows directly to Google Classroom before I post the videos. And this way the students can just download the slides if they want to, or save them to their drive, annotate on those, or print them and then write them out. I don't require my students to take notes because I always let them refer back to their videos. But And Pamela, I'm sorry, I don't know how I'm not a Zoom user, so I don't know how to put your hand down. But if you can undo your hand
Let
just so
me see
that
if I can undo it.
it's okay, just so I don't have to keep, I don't, just so in case you have another question, you pop up back in my screen anyway. So let me show you one thing that
Can I,
go ahead.
sorry, my hand, I don't know how to get that hand up. And I had a question about the video recording. I teach from a textbook, AP Stat class. If I'm recording example problems from that textbook, would that be like a copyright thing? So should I keep the videos?
That's
logged,
a fantastic question. So I had the same thing too. So there is a little law that most people don't know about, and it's very hard to find. And if I wish I could find it and save it. So any textbook is available to be used for educational purposes only. So if you are taking a picture of that and selling the photo, like let's say you posted it to Teachers Pay Teachers, and you said, here's a great worksheet that you can use, and it's a picture or a scan from a textbook, you could be liable for that stuff. But as long as you're using it for educational purposes, it does not matter. And as long as you're using it for your classroom space, so you can use that and record it and then post it to YouTube. It's absolutely free because you are an educator and you're using it for your classroom. You're not purposely selling it and calling it your own material. Almost every question I put into my slideshows are taken directly from textbooks and from a variety of textbooks. So it's not the end. They really don't come after you for that stuff. Okay, so let's make sure I got my chat covered.
I'm
I'm sorry.
I had just one, I'm sorry. One
No,
more
no, go ahead,
question.
Pam.
So I teach 6th grade math. I use Math Antics a lot, and what I do is I'll put up the video because they're usually no more than, I think the longest one is like 8 minutes. And then after I show the video, I'll put up a slide. It'll have like a triangle, a square, and a circle. So something for the square, what squared away we can watch in that video. The triangle, three takeaways from that. And the circle, you know, what's still kind of going around in your mind that you're not sure of. They seem to like that slide. Are there any, I know with math, interactive tools that you could recommend even later on in this presentation to use specifically like with math, because they like to kind of have that hands-on interaction when we're watching some of the videos rather than just sitting and listening to the video?
So the problem, okay, so it's a back and forth. What I would recommend doing is creating assignments. So like you have like the triangle, circle, and square, what I recommend doing is creating things that are linked to those particular videos so that they can pause and do things while they're doing it. So in my class, so I'm going to talk about my assignments. Like I'll have quizzes and I'll have a quiz ready for the class. And it's a 1-question quiz. And that one question relates directly to that one video. And so my kids are taking that quiz. A lot of my kids will take notes and then they'll do the quiz later. And some of my kids will do the quiz while they're doing the video. So they'll do them in like both at the same time. It's a matter of I unfortunately, to answer your question shortly, no, I don't have something specifically that I could say, here, try this one thing. But if you have a manipulative that you can have that goes along with that video in the moment, or things that relate back to it, do that for them. Allow it to be chunked like that so that they can have easy access to it while they're learning it in the moment. So one of the big things with this is I'm going to show you my assignment charts, and this should pop up on my screen. Let me know if you can't see this assignment chart because I can't see what you see. So hopefully you are seeing everything that's in front of me.
Mark, can you zoom in a little bit?
Zoom out?
In, so you can see it bigger.
That is a great question. I have no idea. This is linked in the presentation. So if you want to see it, if you need to see it also, like it is, I don't think I can because it's a Google document. Can you zoom in Zoom?
These are all great questions. I'm sorry for interrupting your session.
No, you're fine. I don't know how to zoom in, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
If you click the 3 dots on the top right corner of the Chrome.
Oh.
You can
I didn't even think about that. You're right. I was trying to do it through Zoom. Okay. Is that a little bit better?
Yes,
100%. Thank you.
Made all of us tech savvy now.
Thank you. I was trying to do it 100% through Zoom. It didn't even click that I should just zoom in the screen. So what I do is these are all my this is an assignment chart. I give this at the beginning of a unit and I list off due dates that everything is here. I list off the assignments and their grades, and I have required and optional assignments for my students. I do this at the beginning of I'm sorry, at the beginning of the unit. I also hyperlink all of my videos, my labs, everything I can directly here. It's a one-stop shop for the students, and this all gets posted in Google Classroom in one big post. So I post the notes, I post the assignment chart with the links to the videos on YouTube, I post to any of the labs we're doing, the links here, and then I'll also post the labs later for actually be assigned and submitted. I have some things that are required and some things that are optional. The test the homeworks or the quizzes are always linked to whatever the podcast is. So in order this, I'm sorry, I apologize. I haven't gotten to this unit yet. I'm still in the process of revising things. So I just am finishing thermo. So in my thermo unit, I have like individual videos. That video then has a quiz that goes directly with it. So they're chunked 1-to-1 as they go through. Are the videos and the quizzes identical? No. It's the most common complaint that I get from my students. They say, well, I don't understand. This is not exactly like the video. And I'm like, of course not. If it was exactly like the video, there'd be no point in me assessing it for you. You would just be copying what's in the video. You have to think a little bit. So they have all this and they know the expectations of what's due in advance. They can then use their time in class to make sure they stay on task. Now, I teach high schoolers. I try to teach them a little bit more responsibility, especially at this point in the year. If I was a middle school teacher, I would make each week have specific assignments due at the end of the week so that on Monday, everything starts fresh and everyone's at the same point. Peter, go ahead.
So I'm bootstrapping my course, which is, fortunately, I only have one prep, but I'm bootstrapping my course. It's my first year doing this. I don't know the kids, and I'm constantly surprised by what they struggle with, and have to kind of go back and do things. Like prioritizing this, I'm never more than 2 weeks aware of what's going to be coming more than 2 weeks ahead. Prioritizing and organizing this stuff, like, it is truly overwhelming. That's a lot of prep to get done, and it's just really hard. So if you can help, like, point to what would you do first here, that would be really useful.
That was perfect for keeping me on track, because that's exactly what I was going to talk about next. So I gave you a whole list of things that you can do. These are all basically non-traditional assignments that are here. And the thing is that what I always suggest, Peter and everybody, is if you're going to pick a place to change something, start by changing your assessments. So I've been doing this a long time. I've got my videos in place. I changed my instruction first. And the problem was I was trying to use traditional assessments with non-traditional instruction. And what was happening was every kid in the class was doing the same homework, the same quiz, the same test. And the cheating was rampant. Like, very quickly, they realized all they had to do was wait for the smartest kids in class to finish the homework, and then the answers to the homework were out there, and they didn't have to do any work. The same thing with the quiz. And so what I started doing was I started changing my assessments. And so I realized that there's no reason for a kid to do 10 questions on a homework problem. They're like 10 different problems. I'm asking the same question 10 different ways. What's the purpose of that? There is none. And again, no offense to my math teachers, but like my math homework in middle school and high school was always page 342, 1 through 19 odd. And I hated that because I was an outstanding math student. And I would sit there and going, but I already know how to do this. Why do I have to do this 18 times? It doesn't make sense to me. But I was a rule follower, so I did exactly what I was supposed to do. So all I did was I took all my homeworks, instead of being 10 questions, I made them 5 questions. And that beauty of that is that now gave me 2 versions of my homework to work with. And so now it was smaller chunked pieces. My quizzes went from being 5 questions to being 1 question. Now I had 5 versions of my quiz that I could give out to my classes. I also don't require all the kids to do the work at the same time. The biggest thing that I've learned over the years is that no 2 kids learn material at the same rate. And so why should I force everyone to take something at the same day? The only thing that we do 100% at the same time are labs. because setup and cleanup kills me. So I can't set up for weeks at a time trying to do labs. Plus my innovation class is constantly using the labs area. So it's always stuff is always in the way. Even with tests, I'll have kids who come in and they say, I'm not ready to take the test today. Can I take it at another time? Yes, you can, but this is going to impact the next thing that you do. And they always end up falling behind and they realize that they have to try to keep up. The other thing that I make sure the students do is when I hit the end of a unit, they can't work on old assignments anymore. Once we move on to a new unit, they have to come in outside of class time to get it done. In my school, we have office hours. And so my students have to come in during office hours and give up their free time to get their work done. So to answer your question shortly is figure out where the applying part of your unit is most important, because when they apply what they learn, that's when real learning starts to take place. So I would say keep to traditional instruction, but start to flip your assessments. Stop giving homework so much. There's a ton of research that shows that homework has no place in schools, except at the AP level. There's really no benefit to homework, and especially if you teach middle school or elementary school, there's zero benefit to learning. People think like, oh, it's about repetition. It's not. If you're using your class time effectively, then the kids should be able to reflect and do the repetition for the learning in your class, which means that as soon as you start to give non-traditional assessments, you'll start to realize that you've got to change your instruction because you're taking up too much time in class with your voice. And the thing that I always say to teachers, especially new teachers, is whoever's doing the most talking is doing the most learning and doing the most work. So if you're spending most of your class doing the talking, your kids aren't doing any of the learning. Remember, 5%. They're only retaining 5% of whatever you say to them. So make sure that you are giving them enough time to interact and do. And so these are some pictures from my classes of various things that I do. You know, here's some pictures from my physics class last year where I was getting the kids to work and I gave them inquiry-based assignments. So I said to them, okay, here's the track, here's the car. You have to figure out these 5 things. You have an entire 80 minutes to work with. Go figure it out. I do major parts of collaboration. I want students learning from each other and teaching each other. I have a student in one of my classes. He's a very quick study. He learns the material very quickly. And the other kids in class are like, okay, Anthony's learned it. He's going to teach it to us. And so they'll watch my video and then Anthony comes over and he teaches them. He does his version of how to do it. And he expresses things in a different way than I do. My students up here, in the upper right corner, this was a lab we do. I'm actually about to get to it. We do a calories and food lab where the students burn Doritos in an attempt to boil water. It's a very common Boy Scout, a scouting thing, but I do it in my class because it's a very cool demonstration. It's their favorite lab of the year. One of the questions that I ask them is this lab possible to be done with any type of food? And this group said adamantly yes. And I said, okay, prove it. And they're like, how? And I said, find food and try to burn it. And they're like, okay. And they went around the room and they grabbed little bits of everyone's lunch and they went down to the vending machine and grabbed some random things. And so here they are burning chocolate and a Kit Kat and a banana. There's a banana somewhere in here. And they tried to burn different foods and they realized that not everything produces flames and some things just blacken. But giving them that freedom in the classroom to try and do, it was more important than them just answering a question, yes or no, is this possible? Okay, great question. I'm sorry, I want to come back to Stacy's question. Is problem-based learning and project-based learning the same? They are not, but they are very often used interchangeably. So project-based learning is more of what I do, where I give them a project in an attempt to solve a problem. Problem-based learning is you give them the problem and you let them figure it out. Okay, like you let them figure out a solution. So this would be, so me giving them, this is a great example. This was my ninth grade seminar class last year. And one of the things we wanted them to do is we were talking about emotions and we wanted them to create a visual representation of how different emotions manifest themselves in your body. And so this is a project that we wanted them to do in order for them to better understand emotions. And you can see like they put perseverance in the legs because your legs propel you forward in your life. They put love in the chest because when you feel love for someone, it's like your chest gets tight. And like, so they had these great examples of what it is, but this is project-based learning. Patrick, I'm sorry, you have a question.
Yes. So my question is, what would you just say to someone who um, is obviously new into the teaching profession, does not give homework? I teach first grade, and the four other first grade teachers do give varying levels. Some give like a packet that they have all week to do. Others give something every night. I've talked to all the parents at parent-teacher conferences. They're all great with me not giving homework. They understand my rationale behind it. We're all on the same page, but administration has now decided that we have to send home the decodable reader for them to read 3 times a week. The fourth night they have to answer questions. They have to have it in on Monday. My concern with that is not everybody is on the same level. We're giving everybody the same thing. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But again, new, non-tenure, all of those things. So how do I advocate for my students and kind of follow this model and do those things in the classroom and remain true to, my philosophy of education while also staying on the right foot with the school that I can, see myself at for a long time for a variety of reasons?
So there's that is a huge question. I'm going to give you my the best response I can. Number one, if your administration tells you to do it, you do it. You are non-tenured, you have no say. So if they say this is what you must do, it doesn't matter if it disagrees with your philosophy, you have to do it or you will be fired. So be careful of that as non-tenured teachers. That's number one. Number two, once you've done that, then you find a way to build in your own methods and philosophy into what's going on in your classroom. And I know at that level, you have to be very lockstep with your colleagues because of planning purposes and everything else that's going on in the school. So if they're telling you you have to do homework and you have to give this thing, fine. You do homework and you do that thing, and then you find a way to level your students, or I'm sorry, differentiate for your students in the classroom so that then when they're giving this more leveled assignment at home, you have already built in some sort of scaffold for each of those kids to get to the same point. Does that make sense? And then
Absolutely.
And then the other part of it is, and then now let me tell you something else too. As someone who has jumped around, there are great kids and great schools everywhere. And I know you're all in a place where you need to stay in your program and your building for a certain period of time. But there's also a point where you look at this and you say, I love this building, I love these kids, I love these school, but this thing that we're doing is not the direction I want to go in for my career. Like this, whatever that's happening, sometimes it could be a short term. Administrators change all the time. I have lost track. I am somewhere close to 20 different supervisors, principals, et cetera, in 23 years of my career. They change, they rotate, they disappear, and they come and go. No longer is the days of the principal who stays there for 25 years happening in schools. So sometimes there's waves. And so what's happening right now may be something you disagree with, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to push through. I'm going to get tenure. I'm going to see how this goes for 5 or 6 years. And you get to 5 or 6 or 7 years and you realize nothing's really changing. This still goes against what I believe in as a teacher. And that's the point where you have to start to decide, do I just put those feelings aside or do I try to find a location that's better suited to how I feel and what my educational philosophy is?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Stacy, you have your hand up.
Yes. So the content I teach is career readiness and life skills. It's for 11th and 12th graders. The school that I'm in, but no matter what the subject is, they're very strict about the do now, I do, we do, you do. And it needs to be very clear that, okay, we're in the I do, we're now in the, you do, the we
Yes.
do. How, so when you're showing the video, like how would you suggest structuring? And everything I do is project-based learning. So it's always at the end, some type of public product. Most of the time I make it an oral presentation. But how would you fit this in? I have some ideas, but I just want to hear what you had.
So I would actually, so one of the things and I apologize because I know I'm running low on time because I'm gonna flip. I do a lot of you do and we do as opposed to I do. So
Okay.
the I do part of the class and my lesson plans are very similar where I have to have a part that specifically identifies what the teacher does and specifically identifies what the students do. Like it has to be designated differently and it's got to be really
Yes.
specific. And so my part, the only time that is dedicated to Mr. Siegel does is the first 5 to 10 minutes of class. I have something on my board. It has instructions for them. It says, this is what you are to do. And then I come in, I give them some instructions about what I want from them of different reminders. Here's what's coming up. Here's what's expected of you. And then I release them to do their work during the course of the block. Even last year when I was doing more project-based learning in my 9th grade seminar classes, we did the same thing. I would start the talking, there would be a do now on the board. That is for them to do. And do nows are meant to be active. There are multiple books out there that disagree with all of that go back and forth. But my thing is it should be active, whatever they're doing, whether it be accessing their learning or accessing previous knowledge, or just simply take out your Chromebook, open Google Classroom, open the document we're working on today. Like that, sometimes that's what the do now is. So that's part of their you do. Then I do this overview of what we're going to be doing today. And here's how this is going to go. And then you do all of this stuff. And the key to my classroom is it's way more you do than it is I do as much as possible. Did that make sense?
Makes sense. Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I'm down to 3 minutes. So I'm going to rush through a little bit this at the end. And I apologize. There are so many cool things. There are so many good questions and comments. One of the reasons I don't give homework, and someone pointed out, is my students were just cheating. They weren't doing the work themselves. So today I'm going to mute that. My students were cheating, and so I do all the work in class. They are not expected to do anything outside of class unless they fall behind. That's when they have to come in outside of class. So if you don't have office hours, if you don't have the ability, most of my students are bused into my school, even though we are a suburban high school. The vast majority, I would say probably 80 to 90% of my kids are bused and cannot get, and we don't have late buses. And so they have to do all the work in class, and they will work to make that happen. Here's more of what the teacher's doing in class. I am moving around. I am talking. I'm building relationships. Building relationships is huge with me. I have a great story about eating in class, but I can't get into that because I've gone down to 2 minutes. So I'm going to rush. If you are a younger person, if you are in the elementary and middle school level, you are going to do more of the in-class flip where students are watching the videos in small little groups. For my first grade teacher out there, what Russ Nelson did was he teaches 3rd grade or 4th grade, and he set up stations. And one of the stations was to watch the video. And another station was practice. And the kids did different things all related to the lesson that he had. And they did stations together. And he taught them how to watch a video to take notes. And his videos are 3 minutes, 4 minutes long, because anything longer than that, they were losing focus. So he teaches them how to take notes. He teaches them, or the videos are, I'm going to show you how to do this thing on the video. And when you get to the next station, you're then going to do the thing that was in the video. You can do all that. My science and math teachers out there, have the videos so that the kids are seeing what they're going to do first. If you're a science teacher, post a video about with all of your safety instructions and what the different equipment is used and how to use a thermometer, how to use a graduated cylinder. High school teachers understand. My son's a sophomore. No, thou shalt not stop me. My high school is my son is a sophomore. He did not have science in middle school because of the pandemic. He has very limited skills in his chemistry class. You have to reteach all of that. Find the stuff on the internet, give that to them. I am so sorry that I ran out of time. There is links to the sessions for overviews or exit tickets, etc. I wish you all the best. If you have any questions, come find me on the social media at Dare to Awesome. Email me, marksiegel@gmail.com. Thank you very much. I'm sorry that I rushed through that. Thank you for everyone's participation. You're amazing. Have a great rest of your day.